not the one you're thinking of. But I am the Doctor.
Hi kids, welcome to another video, this time on a Tuesday. Hopefully it'll get edited in time, he says. Hope you haven't been melting too much in the heat or getting soaked in the rain. Welcome to the UK, people. This week, as the title suggests, is part 2 of Dalek Day. Now, there's good news and bad news. The good news is a really good interview coming up with my mate Philip Roy, who's an actor. He's been in film and TV, but also he's just coming to the point of releasing his feature-length Doctor Who retro-style fan film, Doctor Who Meets the Scorpion. So the trailers are going to be in this interview, and we'll find out more about him and working with Daleks and the music and everything else. So that's going to be fun. The bad news is the other stuff that I personally shot, interviewing my friend who had a black NSD Dalek and other bits around the hall that we were shooting in, has gone missing. I usually back stuff up off my phone, and I can't find it. Yeah, maybe I just thought I backed it up and deleted it off the phone. It's possible. So apologies to Alan, the guy who owns the Dalek, for that. Maybe we'll do another Dalek Day at some point, and you'll see if he's got any further with assembling his NSD, his Dalek Sec style. That sounded wrong. Dalek Sec style. You need a gap there. Don't mean it. Demonetize me, please. What else was I going to say? Yes. Thank you to the few subscribers I've had in the last week or so. Lovely to see you. Nice that you joined. Welcome aboard. As I always say, this is a place for mostly sci-fi. New t-shirt, by the way. Thanks to Willie Wells for buying me the really cool Tron t-shirt. I know my friend Rich Dursley would like this. But this is mostly a sci-fi place where I do film, TV, reviews and thoughts, and I'm currently reviewing all of Babylon 5, and I'm just starting season 3. Not sure when I'm going to get back to that, because I'm going through a really busy patch at the moment, but it's all good. It means I'm keeping the lights on around here. But we've just hit 800, so I did ask my subscribers for a film or TV episode or something I can review to mark 800 subscribers, and I've picked one at random, and it is this. So I'm not sure if I've ever seen this film. I know it's very old, and I mean, look, how can you not want to watch that and find out what it's all about? A rare trip into sci-fi for our man Sean Connery. I may have seen it back in the early 80s, possibly, if it was ever on BBC Two late at night with the other sci-fi movies like Silent Running, etc. But I'm looking forward to sitting down and making some notes like I do with Babylon 5 and telling you what I thought of this crazy trip known as Zardoz. Anyway, you're not here for that. You're here for Dalek Day Part 2. So here comes my interview with Philip Roy, aka The Doctor. I'll see you after the break. And guess what? I'm back with Philip Roy a few months after our last interview on my channel. And essentially, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today was to have a little bit of a catch-up and find out what's going on with the status of your film right now.
Yeah, I think when we talked, I think we were in post-production, weren't we? Yeah, definitely, because it was only a few months ago. So we're still in post-production, but we are coming to the end of it now, so I can actually see the light at the end of the tunnel. And we've got a full edit, we've got a full instant music soundtrack.
Yeah, because the last time we talked, you didn't have a score.
No, I think we might have started on it, but so we've got one of my old friends, Stephen Ford, who's been doing the music on that, and I've been absolutely blown away by what he came up with. The brief I gave him basically was, look, I don't want it to sound like modern Doctor Who. I don't want orchestra and
Yeah.
I don't want it slathered over everything. So
Yeah.
it's almost like there's a radio in the background. I said,
Yeah.
look, it needs to be complementary to what's happening. And I said, basically, I want those weird synth,
Almost
sounds.
experimental kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I suppose synthesizers, firstly they were the size of a house.
Yeah. But they were the sound of the future.
They were, and they went out of, you leave them in a room for an hour, come back, and they'd be out of tune. It was really sort of, so the word experimental is absolutely right.
Yeah.
But they were producing these weird and wonderful sounds, which obviously that's how they created the original Doctor Who theme, which to my mind still sounds like nothing else. It doesn't date at all.
No.
There's nothing about it that dates. It still sounds futuristic. I know people can pick apart, that's a reverb face or whatever, but to me I listen to it and it still gives me those goosebumps.
Well, I think
that's what I was aiming for.
The genius of the Doctor Who theme, it was written by a proper BBC composer,
Yeah.
Ron Grainer, but when he handed it over, to the radiophonic workshop, the music then didn't feel like it fit in for 1963.
No.
And 63 years later, it's become iconic because it hasn't, like you say, it hasn't dated it. It hasn't allied itself with any particular decade or whatever. It's changed a few times, but it still has that otherworldly, as expected.
Because I've got a couple of those old BBC TV theme records,
Yeah.
and they there's a chap called Ray Winston, who I think was an orchestra man, and he's got a version of the Doctor Who theme done by generic instruments, and it
Yes.
sounds dated because
Yeah.
it sounds plonky but as soon as you get Delia Derbyshire in, that's the one.
And I had the same thing. I had some of these, my mother would buy us the compilation Jeff Love and his orchestra
Yeah.
stuff, and it would sound
Yeah.
jazzy or disco-y at the time.
Yeah.
But when you listen to the Delia Derbyshire version, it's
Yeah,
just,
exactly.
it's out of time.
Yeah,
And it's a great thing.
Jeff Love doing the James Bond themes, wonderful. But
Because it feels like a 60s sort of Sean Connery kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it works. But for Doctor Who,
it doesn't.
It's got to be timeless in a way.
it does have to be timeless. Yeah, so basically that's what we did. That was the brief to Stephen. And originally it was quite a narrow brief. So I said, look, I don't want any drums, I don't want any guitars or anything like that. I want weird synth sounds, which he started off. And so the first time, I think we had different bits of edits, but we didn't have the complete film at that point. So I said, look, here's a 12-minute sequence that we've got edited. There's nothing to go in between. So that's something you can be working on. So he came back to me with that. And he said, look, I have got a couple of, instruments which aren't synthesizers, but I've got the synthesizers in as well. And I realized then that my brief was just too constricted. So I liked what he did then. I had a couple of notes. Which there's no ego involved with Steve. If I say, look, I think if you just took that bit out a bit or moved that or added this and that, he's going, yeah, absolutely. So he would do it, and then come back. And the second time it came back, and it was perfect. Then as we pretty much got the full edit for him to work on, we gave him that, and he would call me over to his little home studio and play. And he said, oh, this is what I've got for that. And wow, it was just superb. In fact, there's one sequence, and I'd given Steve a couple of examples, sort of some of the incidental music from the Five Doctors, from some Tom Baker, some John Pertwee, Terror of the Autons.
Just to push him in the right direction.
Just to push him in the right, and say, look, this is what we're aiming for. And I also gave him, I said, look, don't go too far to this, but I said, this is Malcolm Clark's very experimental soundtrack for the Sea Devils.
Yes.
Which he got criticised by Barry Letts and said, look, this doesn't sound like music, it sounds like sound effects.
It does,
which it sort of does, but it's so unsettling.
Yeah.
It's so unsettling that it completely works, and that's why I think the first episode of the Sea Devils, where they're being chased around that sea fort, is or maybe it's the beginning of the second episode. It was absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the music, people forget how much the music was a part of 70s Doctor Who, because at the end of the day, you've got these low budget men in rubber suits, which you know, in any other context, and they're lit harshly a lot of the time.
I was going to say, there's no sort of scary mood lighting or anything like that. So
there's
you've
no
got to
leeway.
bump up the kind of
so
terror aspect or the atmosphere, like say with noises. Or
So when that music kicks in and you see this sea devil firing at the Doctor,
and
it was terrifying.
Weird noises and stuff going on, synthy stuff.
That sort of stuff would put their hands on it. So as I said, you know, Steve had scored this sequence, and part of what he did, I was listening to this, and I almost accused him of literally cutting and pasting it.
It sounds like it belongs in that era.
Absolutely, and but it was. It was great. It was almost pushing that thing where, is that music or is it a sound effect? And it was almost as much atmosphere as music. But that's not slavishly all the way through the film. It's just in that section. Yeah. So it works brilliantly. And then other parts he did. I can't give away the details for spoilers, but there are sequences in the film where we push the boundaries, much like Philip Hinchcliffe did. We push the boundaries into almost horror film pastiche.
Yeah.
And at that point, he went for a more traditional score, a more horror film score, and he showed me that, and it was terrifying. I could feel the hair, you know, as a mature man, I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck going up. So it's absolutely wonderful. So we've got to come back to it in terms of where we are with post-production. We've got that done. The score is in. We've had a sound designer that then taken that score, bring it into the mix of tweaking the dialogue and the sound effects. Yeah. So we've had a first pass of that. I've got a couple of little notes, but it's just minor stuff. We're still colour grading at the moment, but some of the colour grade is looking absolutely fantastic. The Daleks, wow, you see the Daleks at the beginning of the film, and you would think this was filmed in the 60s.
Yeah,
it's absolutely wonderful. I'm so pleased with the way it's going. I think when people see this, it's going to be like nothing they've ever seen in a Doctor Who fan film.
And people don't realise that this, again, in filmmaking, you know, I'm not saying everyone doesn't realise, but a lot of people don't realise that how many moving parts there are in a film. Like you said, there's 3 soundtracks. You've got dialogue, sound effects, and music, etc., and the vision even more. So, you know, let's talk about your experience of making the film from start to finish. As anyone will tell you, there's pros and cons, and there's happy points and sad points and stuff. What was your most enjoyable part of making that film for you? Was it the end? Was it the writing, or was it the actual filming?
I think it would probably be the beginning and the end.
Okay.
I think the first weekend of filming that we did, which was this, what we call the Dalek pre-title sequence. Yeah. We filmed it without sound. Because we would be dubbing in the Dalek voices and the Dalek control room sound effect and all that sort of stuff, and so there wasn't really any dialogue in it, which sort of helped because I was easing myself into it.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, I had a script. I'd set aside 2 days to do it. I built a set. I booked the Daleks to come in, but again, it was the first thing I'd ever filmed, you know.
But I guess the excitement was the best part of that.
The excitement was fabulous, but when we finished on the Sunday, and we finished on time, you know, I didn't have to keep guys around for like 3 hours after.
Right.
You know, we sort of said we will probably finish around tea time, and we finished about 4:30 on the first day, and a little bit earlier on the second day. And I thought, I've got my first weekend done. Yeah. And at that point, I thought, I think we can do this, and I got a good crew that all worked well. So I thought, all we need to do now is we've taken the first bite of the apple. We just need to keep nibbling away, and eventually it'll be gone, and all you'll have is the core.
To the end. So
at the end,
I was going to say, the end is usually a kind of bittersweet experience because you're coming to end. But you enjoyed it.
You were with us on the last.
That's right.
Because it was only one day that we filmed, wasn't it? The last scene, which is what we call the cabaret scene.
Cabaret scene. Yeah.
And obviously that was the one I was putting it off. I was putting it off and put it off because it was the one scene where we had 20,
You had a lot of
25 background extras,
Yeah.
and also the complications of having live singers and how you sync that up. So,
Gotcha.
so I think like anything, like any coward, I've put it off to the end.
Yeah.
But when I said to Richard, I said, "Is that it?" And he said, "Yeah, I think that's it."
Yeah,
and we did that golden wrap.
And it creeps up on you, and you go, "We've actually
We've
finished
actually
filming."
done
Yeah.
it. You know,
Yeah.
we've done it, and we've got. You know, when I first started it, I had the script in my head. I thought it would be. I mean, the first published I put out was Doctor Meets the Scorpion, a 40 to 60 minutes fan film. No, I started about a 45-minute fan film, and then I thought, oh, we got a bit more than this. It's a 60-minute fan, and by the end, because we'd edited most of it by then,
Yeah.
I said, well, we've only got, how long do you think this cabaret is? He said, maybe, 9-10 minutes. I thought, we've got an hour and a half movie. That's an actual
90
feature
minutes
film.
feature film, yeah.
So the relief of thinking principal photography is done. I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about cast availability,
Yeah.
whether I can get a venue, that sort of thing. It was all done. I thought, now we're just into post-production. And post-production, that's a whole new ball game because it's out of my hands to a certain
totally is,
extent.
yeah.
So you're handing your baby over to someone else. But that, it is what it is. It's all been a learning curve. But I can see the light at the end of the tunnel now. I'm just like all pessimists. I'm just keeping my finger crossed, like nothing happens, like a nuclear war, because that would just be my luck.
That would rain on
Trump
your
would
parade
start
a
a
bit.
nuclear war just to scupper my film getting released.
But on the plus side, you may get some real radioactive mutants that will occupy these Daleks.
Yeah, I'd have Daleks to film with for years after that, wouldn't I?
We'll just write them into contracts right now. What was it like working with Daleks? Because obviously you've written and you're kind of directing as well, so you've got to act and direct these Daleks as well.
Well, I mean, I'm co-directing with Richard because obviously, as the principal actor, I can't be in front of the camera and behind the camera, and also Richard has got a wealth of experience behind the camera that I don't have.
Yeah.
So yes, I had a directing input because obviously I'd written the movie, and as I was writing it, I could see certain camera angles that I wanted. I definitely wanted a low camera angle on Dalek Decimus.
Yeah.
Because they used a similar thing in the first Peter Cushing movie, and I thought, well, that looks really good.
Yeah.
And there was other certain angles and things I wanted, but if I didn't have a strong opinion, then I would defer to Richard because he would. And sometimes I would say, look, this is sort of what I want, Richard, and he would say, okay, well, maybe if we do this, just slightly change it, and invariably he would come up with something better.
Yeah.
So it was a partnership, but yes, he's basically we co-directed it, but his name is above mine on the director.
Sure.
So that was interesting. Sorry, what was the question? I've gone off
I
tangent.
mean that's the thing. Obviously, directing Daleks.
Directing
because
Daleks,
you've got
yeah.
people inside them.
Yeah.
Spoiler. But they. I mean, back in the TV days, they would give them numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
And the directors would forget that were people inside and say, Dalek 1, go here.
Yeah.
So you had to obviously talk to them, get out of the way of them, hide from them, be chased by them.
Yeah.
How does that?
Well, my
logistics?
brief was in terms of narrative that not that I've got anything against them. I think they look wonderful, but I didn't want any what you call new series Daleks in this. I wanted to keep them to movie Daleks and classic Daleks because I did want to bring in elements of the Peter Cushing film, like the Roboman and the movie Daleks. Now the movie Daleks that we had, Dalek Decimus, there was the
Dalek Vex.
Yeah, Dalek Vex, and then there was a red Dalek. I can't remember the name of Dalek.
I do know because I designed
Simon
the banner
James.
for him.
Yeah.
Drax.
Dalek Drax, yeah. So Drax and Decimus were motorised.
Yeah.
But they were confined pretty much to the Dalek control room. So that was more dialogue scenes. When we went to the corridor where the Daleks are stalking the Doctor, at that point, the two Daleks that we had were the old-fashioned classic Daleks moved by pushing your feet.
Yeah.
But what that meant was when they were chasing the Daleks, they could get up a lot more speed.
Okay.
Stopping sometimes can be an issue, but they could get a lot more speed. Whereas I think with the motorised, I might have had to slow my run down a little bit. So
Gotcha.
the Daleks that came in and because I basically put a shout out on a couple of Facebook groups and then started getting some people saying, look, I'll come down and film with you. And all of the Daleks look so cinematic, and they're so aesthetically pleasing. It's wonderful.
There is you can understand why. I mean, as a kid, I saw the Cushing movies, and I noticed that everything seemed to be scaled up a little bit, from the fender, the big lights on the heads.
Yeah, they wanted them more imposing for the Cushing.
In 2005, I was surprised that they brought the Dalek back for the 2005 series with the very big lights on the head, which are obviously inspired from the Cushing movies, rather than tiny little indicator bulbs. Yeah. So I think for a big screen experience, the Cushing movies went for as big and ostentatious as possible for Daleks. Yeah. So I can see why you've kept that classic kind of feel to it, and it's quite nice to have a visual theme of like a sort of classic.
But in terms of how you film them, certainly the motorized Daleks, when they've finished a shot, try and get them back into position, because obviously they've got limited visibility. So you're sort of almost trying to left a bit, right a bit, back up. No, my left, not your left. That sort of thing. Yeah. Obviously, with the classic Daleks, where they just push with their feet, they're a little bit more manoeuvrable. But again, they've got limited vision. I think the thing that you don't realise until you see them at convention is just how big they are. I mean, on screen they're obviously shorter than the Doctor, or if you're short like me, they're about the same height. But you don't realise how wide they are. I mean, they won't fit through a normal door. No, you've got to come through a double door with them. So they are, and especially the movie Doctors, they are quite imposing. But as soon as you're on set with them, as soon as it's even when you're filming with them, and I think all the crew found this, they're just they're so iconic that it's almost like being on. You can imagine if you were a background, a lowly actor, you just come in and suddenly you stood next to Tom Cruise. It's almost like I can't take my eyes off him. Yeah, because he's got that, or someone else. They've got that.
It's that X factor, that star power, the appeal. Yeah,
it's almost like an aura that they give off.
And like I said, it's been 63 years since we first saw Daleks on TV. Yeah. Black and white to begin with, etc. But when I think it was 66, wasn't it, for the? No, it was not long after that. 64, possibly, for the Cushing films. Yeah, and in the UK especially, mainly, Daleks are synonymous with British culture.
Of course they are.
They're as equally as iconic as a red phone box or something like that. To the point where Decimus and some of the other guys were asked to, parade
on the Queen's. Was it
the Jubilee? Wasn't it?
It was the 50th Jubilee. Wasn't
50th, I think it was.
Yeah. I mean, I think when we heard Doctor Who was coming back in 2005, we'd seen so many possible things, around the time of the TV movie and all those failed Doctor Who movies that were, on the cards but never got off the ground. And they were talking about. It was almost like, we need the Daleks, but we don't want them to look like Daleks. They've got to look like spider Daleks. Or
I remember that. Yeah.
I mean, even I know for the Philip Seymour movie, if the Paul McGann had gone to a series, they had some guy did concept drawings. I know Philip Seymour didn't want this, but they had concept drawings, and the Daleks were almost like a tribe, or like a Mad Max tribe. Yeah, and you think, well, that's not a Dalek.
Yeah, I remember seeing some of the early kind of CGI.
Sort of feathers. They almost look a red.
That was the Cybermen. That was the Cybermen.
That was the Cybermen.
They were going to be called the Cybes.
Yes, that's right.
But the Dalek
but they look like a spider Dalek.
Yeah, they had a corridor with this spidery octopus thing.
Yeah. So I think it was a very brave move of Russell T Davies to say, no, we don't alter the basic shape.
Because it could have gone wrong.
Yeah, but if you watch young kids at any Doctor Who convention, they don't go think and say, oh, that looks silly or whatever. They're fascinated by the movement and the way it moves, and they don't look silly. You can, if you break them down to their composite parts, so you've got a silly eye stalk, and you've got Mini or Land Rover indicator lights for the eyes, and you've got a sink plunger. Okay, if you want to go to that extent of pulling it apart. But when you see them in the round, when you see the whole thing and the way that they move and the way that they sound,
it just sells it, doesn't it?
Yeah, you can't take your eyes off them. Yeah, they can't take. So I mean, it was a genius concept. Now I look at the new series Daleks, I think they're a little bit over designed with the detailing. I mean, they still look great. They still look great, but I prefer that smooth dome where there's nothing on it.
Sure, I think aesthetic-wise, because I'm an artist myself, I have seen in later years, not just with Daleks, but with all kinds of things, video games and sci-fi movies, there is a tendency to over-detail things.
Yeah.
Too many rivets, too many holes, too many vents.
And obviously, if you're the chap that's been tasked with designing the Daleks for the new series that's coming back, you feel you probably need to earn your money. So you can't just say, there's my Dalek. Well, hang on, that's what we gave you.
Yeah, if you say it's fine as it is, you won't get paid.
No. So you feel, I've got to put a detail in and we'll put some rivets on and that sort of thing.
What I liked about the NSD Daleks is that they look tough. They put the rivets and the bronze.
Yeah, they do look
hard.
like they could take a bit of a knock.
But going back to your film and stuff, where do you see what's coming up in the next year or two for your film and?
Like I said, hopefully we'll have a mid-year release. I think it's going to gain its own momentum. I can't understand why it wouldn't, because I know I'm promoting my own film, but I've seen it and I know how good it is. And
I've seen a chunk of it and it is very, very good.
Yeah, and I've watched it, because I have to watch it for different editors, but I watch it for pleasure, and I've probably seen it about 100 times, and I at no point go, oh, I'm bored of this now. Okay. I still, even when I think I should be going to sleep now, I've got work in the morning, I still got to go to the end.
I've done that with my film. As awful as my film is, you still you watch it more than anyone else.
Yeah, because I suppose you get something out of it that the audience isn't seeing,
and you learn from it.
Yeah,
as well.
But the idea is, we sort of there is room for a second movie.
Okay.
We hope that if this does well, that if you want to see what happens to the Doctor and his companion Jenny next, we will set up a crowdfunder, and we'll set a certain limit and say, look, when we hit that, we'll start. So, I've got the idea for the script. We've have filmed some top and tail scenes already since we had a set.
Okay.
So we've got that in the can, and it's just the story in between that top and tail section. So we do hope to do a second. I think there'll be
definite interest.
People want to do it, and look, I don't know how much. I know the second movie would cost more, because in the first movie I had access to locations in factories and things like that, which didn't cost me anything. Yeah. In the second movie, we would have to maybe rent places and things like that. So that brings up your cost a little bit.
Right. But that's actually two things to look forward to. So you've got the Scorpion film itself, potentially a sequel, and I wish you all the best with it. And I can't wait to be. I'm going to be in the front row so I can see it first time it's available.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Terry.
There you go. The great Philip Roy talking about his film. And we're back. I hope you enjoyed that, guys and girls and everyone else. So I always post on Saturdays at about midday and Tuesdays at 5 o'clock. I have been so ridiculously busy with about 5 or 6 jobs. I kid you not. Every time we get up to a Saturday or a Tuesday, the panic sets in. I'm like, can I actually do a video in time? So bear with me. It's not always going to be this busy, and we'll get back to Babylon 5. We'll get back to building things. I've got a Dalek cutaway that looks like that I need to finish up and paint. I've got the Blake 7 figures. I've got a sculpture on the way, a Tim Burton style sculpture. I've got all kinds of stuff going on. And I might have to do a video, I did say this earlier, about I'll list all my half-finished projects, and I get you guys to actually vote on which one I should pull my finger out and get done. Okay, it might be a good way of forcing me into a deadline kind of thing. Anyway, that's all for me this week. See you on Saturday. Thanks for the liking and subscribing. Feel free to chat in the comments. Keep it nice, otherwise the comments never show up. That's how I roll, and I will see you next time. Take care now. Bye bye then.